Hello everyone. So we knew this would happen, and we knew this would come to this, and we knew that the establishment and the judges and the state would not prosecute or would not fine our politicians for going off a golf and jolly down in Clifton in 2020 when we were all in lockdown. And the day beforehand, they issued rules to you and me, the peasants of Ireland, to follow the rules or end up being in the Garda prison, being in the Garda station or being battered around by Gardaí. And all the politicians, a minister, members of the Senate, an ambassador, an ex-member of RTE, loads of other establishment figures were there. We had a European Commissioner there too, Phil Hogan, who was on his phone. And again, nothing's been mentioned about why he was on his phone and how he hasn't been charged yet, or how he hasn't got penalty points for it. Nothing has been mentioned. So long story short, and just to say, all charges were dismissed. And I want to ask this question, it's a very reasonable question. It was members of the public who were brought up for having people over their house and for going outside the 5k, and they were charged. There was no such thing as charges dismissed there. They were fined. Some of them were sent to prison. Some of them were sent on community service. And whatever your opinion is, there's one rule for D and another rule for the other. You could just see this, that the other had no respect for anybody. They didn't care about anybody else. They were sorry that they got caught. That was the only thing. It's such a disgrace. And again, whoever this judge is should be sacked, to be totally honest. Whoever this judge who made this ruling. Because they should have got a fine, they should have got something. Because everybody else got something. And nobody else went into the courts. I even know one case in Cavan, there was one person went outside the 5k, and they had to pay €1,000 fine to the state for going outside the 5k, and they went to court about it, and the judge gave them €1,000 fine to pay. And they paid it. The only reason why, because they were threatened to be sent to prison if they didn't pay it. Within a certain amount of time, and they paid it. And this is the thing. This is the overwhelming thing. If an only citizen of the Irish Republic can be fined for going outside the 5k and for breaking the rules, and these politicians made the rules, and again a Supreme Court judge who is presided over all the laws and supposed to know all the laws in the land was there. And he's still there. Seamus Wolf is still in the High Court. He's still in the Supreme Court. He's a Supreme Court judge. Would you believe it? And he didn't know the rules apparently. And him a Supreme Court judge. And the next morning, take for example, he could have to preside over a case saying, these rules are unconstitutional, which they are. We have to admit the COVID laws were unconstitutional and should never have been allowed in the Irish. They were never allowed to be. They should never have been allowed to be brought into the state. And, it's a disgrace. It is a disgrace that we even allow. Again, the RT today reported on it for about a minute. And they said, oh, look at. It's so upsetting that these people even brought up to court. And they didn't report to the thousands of citizens who were going to see dying well if it's the things that go outside the 5k and use the constitutional right to go around their own country freely. And that these politicians made the rules, broke every one of the rules that they laid out. They were inside of the public effect, and then they quickly changed the rules to suit their narrative. But this is the thing. We have to stand up to these politicians. There can't be one rule for another, for the establishment, and another rule for you and me. It isn't fair, and that's the word. It's about fairness. It's about truth and honesty. There's no such thing as truth and honesty in any part of politics in this country. It's all about lies and deception, and that we have to be honest with ourselves. Like, if they cared, if these people that were at the Clifton Golf Society, they should have handed in the resignation and said they feared the people of Ireland. Because, there's many stories of people having to bury loved ones on that day. I know, I heard a story on Facebook that week that they had to bury their nan, and there was only about 10 people at the funeral, and some had to watch online, and they couldn't go. And then down at Clifton, were having a big do in a hotel that you and I had to pay for. They went on all morning nearly, into the early hours of the morning. And this is the thing. This is the thing. This is the overriding thing. Again, it's about the law should apply to everybody. Everybody is equal before the law. And that's the statement here. Everybody is equal before the law. Nobody is above the law. Nobody's under the law. Justice is blind. But justice is not blind here. Because if justice was blind, these people who are in establishment jobs, who are civil servant jobs, who are supposed to be representing the public, did not get fined and did not face any consequences. Basically, there's nothing going to be done about it. And we've seen that with the Department of Foreign Affairs party. Nothing going to be done about it. Basically, fuck all. Move on, forget about it, more or less, Micheál Martin said. So, there has to come a crunch in Ireland where they say, why are we allowing this to happen? Because the judges should be saying this is outrageous that these politicians made the rules and broke every one of them. But no, the judge pat them on the head and said good boys and set them off with a lollipop. But yeah, it's a great country. Did I ever tell you that? It's just a great country. But yeah, it's a clear breach of the rules. And basically the media are more or less saying our poor politicians, they needed the day off. They needed to go off on the break, even though everybody else was in lockdown. And people were fined for doing the exact same thing they were doing. But yeah.